Good night. Have one done tonight. God is good and God is good all the time. My name is Emma Jill Spirits Divine. I'm here to give you a word on tonight. And the topic gonna be Joseph and the family. Now this will continue on chapter 47. Now Joseph has spoke with Pharaoh. That his father and his brothers are here. He's trying to help them get a part of the land because his father has so much livestock. So they own the land to live and they settle in Gusar, the land in Egypt. So now Joseph is dealing with both families, in Canaan and Egypt. He in charge and he doing a great job. For food is so severe in Egypt and Canaan. So Joseph collect all the money that was being found in Egypt and Canaan in payments for the grain. That was buying and he brought it to Pharaoh palace. So he started, collecting the money and stuff like that for exchange for food and stuff. And then he'll get some of the profit to Pharaoh. So we see that Joseph's in charge and he doing a great job dealing with family, trying to provide for all the people so they won't die. Because if they don't eat, they'll die. So now the money of the people of Egypt, Canaan, was gone. So now all the money they had, it was gone. So now the famine about to get severe in Egypt right now. So all Egypt came to Joseph and they said, "Give us food." He in charge, so they all coming to him and say, "Give us food. All our money is gone." So they said, "Why? Should we die before your eyes? Our money are gone." So remember, Jacob had large amount of livestock. And Joseph came up with an exchange since their money are gone. So Joseph will sell you food in exchange for your livestock. Now see, all their money is gone. And Jacob had so much of livestock, so many animals and everything, so they're gonna be selling their food. I mean their livestock for the food. So they brought the livestock to Joseph and it belongs to him, and there is nothing left for our Lord except our bodies in our land. So every time they give up something, it's just like food. Food is very expensive for us to keep up with. So they keep on paying for this and that, and then the money just kept on running dry. And all they have left is their body. Now see, this is God's plan it started. So that this is how they're gonna get trapped in Egypt and being a slave under Pharaoh, because the famine is so severe in Egypt. So all their money is gone, all their livestock is gone. So all they have is their body and they have the land. They're gonna exchange their body for food, which means they're gonna be a slave under Pharaoh. So now his brother money is all gone. His brother's money is all gone. Nothing to buy food. So then Joseph said, "Give me your livestock." And that's all Jacob animals and everything. Jacob loved his animals. He was a lamb and he exchanged, took his animals and stuff and took off with that. So the livestock to Joseph, so now that would last for a year. Jacob had a whole lot of livestock. So that's good. They're gonna last for a whole year. But now the brother said there's nothing left to give and we need food. So year to pass and everything is gone. And they're saying all they have is their body and the land. So they only have left is their body and the land. And they told Joseph, "Why should we die right before your eyes?" We have our body and the land by us. So they're selling their body, our land, in exchange for the food. So brother said, them in their land will be in bondage to Pharaoh, so we may live and not die. So they're saying their body, the land, it's gonna be in bondage to Pharaoh. And this how they're gonna be enslaved for Pharaoh, in bondage. So giving their body up, thinking they're gonna be temporary. But it's going to be 400 years. They're going to be under Pharaoh. You know, God told him he gonna come back, and God gonna come back. God gonna come back. So now we see that this how they become to be in bondage to Pharaoh. You know, it's all God plan, and this how His plan is about to start. You know, so the land may become dissolute. You know, so Joseph brought all the land in Egypt for Pharaoh. You know, the Egyptians also they feared because the famine was so severe for them, and the land become Pharaoh. You know, Pharaoh. Everything gonna become to him. They buy it in all. You know, so Joseph still working things out. With famine is so severe. So now Joseph reduced the people to serve from one end of Egypt to the other. Okay, so Joseph still working things out. You know, so they ain't sold their land. You know, so he gonna give them a job to do. They're gonna be collecting money and stuff like that. They're gonna keep some for themselves, and they're gonna give some to Pharaoh. You know, and the money they make is for them to be buying food. You know, because Joseph trying to help in his factory, you know, because they want to sell their body, even though they still gonna have to do it. But Joseph trying to save them from being in bondage under Pharaoh. So, however, he did not buy the land or the priests because they received a regular allowance from Pharaoh and had food enough from the allowance that Pharaoh had given them. That's why they did not sell the land. So they didn't sell the land. For the land is for the priests. You know, so they're gonna be working for the priests, and the priest was getting allowance. So that's why they didn't sell the land. So the allowance they're gonna be getting, you know, they're gonna be paying the Israelite, you know, and so they're gonna be giving portions to Pharaoh and some for themselves for the food. You know, so Joseph said, "Now I have brought you and your land." So Joseph did buy them any land today for Pharaoh. And here's the seed, you know, for you that you can plant the ground. So this how they're going to be making money. You know, Joseph giving them seed, and he telling them you're going to plant it when it blossom, you know, then you're going to sell whatever grow up. You know, so this how they're going to be making their money. So when the troops came up, give a fifth of it to Pharaoh. Give a fifth of it to Pharaoh. You know, and the other 4/5, you may keep it as a seed for the field and a food for yourself. So this how they're gonna have food for themselves in your household and your children. So the brothers, you have saved our lives. So they're telling Joseph, you have saved our life. We will not die but live. You know, so maybe find favor in your eyes of our Lord, and we will be in bondage to Pharaoh. They still be in bondage to Pharaoh. But they also, he gave them the seed to be growing, and they can still be selling and making a profit off of that. So Joseph established it as the law concerning the land in Egypt. A fifth of the produce belongs to Pharaoh. Only the land of the priests that did not become Pharaoh. You know, Pharaoh bought everything else besides the priests. The priests still have his land. You know, so now, since Joseph did a good job, established the law concerning the land in Egypt, see, God had picked him. God had said, you know, had Pharaoh put that dream in him, and God said, you're going to be in charge. And Joseph is doing a good job. He's been collecting. He's been doing a good job with the famine and stuff. So now the Israelite is settled in Egypt, in Gusar, the part of Egypt. So they acquired property there and were fruitful and increased greatly in numbers. You know, God had told them, you know, multiply, you know, because y'all going to be a great nation. So Jacob lived in Egypt 17 years. You know, Jacob lived in Egypt for 17 years. You know, when he found Joseph, he already was in his age, you know, and the years of his life was 147 years. You know, so that's a full life that he done lived. You know, so when the time drew near for the Israel, for they call him you know, his name will change to Israel. Sometimes they say Jacob. You know, so Jacob to die. It's come near for Jacob to die. He called for his son, Joseph. If I find favor in your eyes, put your hand under my thigh, you know, and promise that you will show me kindness and faithfulness. You know, so now Jacob wants Joseph to promise to him, show kindness Do not, he told him, show kindness. He said, do not bury me in Egypt. He said, but when I rest with my father, carry me out of Egypt and bury me with my family. So he's saying, make a promise to me. Don't bury me in Egypt. He wants to go right back to Canaan where Abraham and all the rest of his family been buried at. So Joseph said, he will do as you say. And he said, I swear. So Jacob said, swear to me. Joseph swore to his father, and Jacob worshiped as he leaned on the top of his staff. Because he old, he weak. He already he's about to die, so he can't hardly stand up straight. And it said he was like leaning on his staff, while he was talking to Joseph. He telling Joseph, do not bury me in Egypt. Take me out of Egypt and bury me in Canaan where the rest of my family is. So we see that Jacob do not want to be buried in Egypt. Carry his body to Canaan, the promised land that God is giving his offspring. He will be with his father Isaac and his grandfather Abraham. That's what he wants to be buried. And see, Sarah couldn't be buried there because as they was traveling, not Sarah, Rachel could not be buried there because she died right on a curve where they was traveling at, and they left her right there. So the famine in Egypt and Canada was so severe that they sold their livestock. Then they sold themselves in the land to Pharaoh. And they become, in bondage to Pharaoh. And this how they become to be slaves under Pharaoh. For a change, they sold their body for a change for food. And this the start of it. And that's how they become to be slaves and being bondage to Pharaoh. So this is how the Israelites become to be slaves and bondage to Pharaoh. They will become to be stuck there, until 14 years when God come from. And God will rescue them. Now this is God's plan is being fulfilled. The Israelite already, became to increase greatly in the land of Goshen. So they will be a great nation just as God said it would. So now God's next plan is when God will free them out of bondage to conquer the land that God is giving them, the land of Canaan. That's the promised land for the Israelites. Now, just the first part of God's plan. The second plan gonna be when God rescue them from Pharaoh, and then they're gonna conquer their land in Canaan. So just the beginning. It's just the beginning. So now Joseph effect is a term from the story by Pharaoh dream. Now this is first started when God had put that dream in Pharaoh, letting him know that this will happen. So the story by Pharaoh's dream, as it recounted by Joseph, which led the ancient Egyptians to expect a famine lasted 7 years, to follow 7 more years of bountiful harvest. So Joseph's strategy, was save their lives. He was real smart. He know how to calculate real good. I mean, he just took charge and did what he had to do. So investment in that changed the lifestyle. Now, powerful lesson from the life of Joseph. When a dream came to him at 17 years old, he didn't understand. When a dream came to him at 17 years old, he didn't understand. All he know how to tell the story, the dream, to his brothers. He really didn't know about the dream until he was in Egypt. He started seeing piece by piece start coming to life. And then he started like, okay, this look like some of my dream is coming to pass. So he didn't understand, but he trusts God. A lot of time, we don't understand when we ain't on our journey. But we got to still trust God. We still got to trust God. Even if you don't understand, you got to still follow. So he didn't understand, but he trusts God. And then when he starts seeing God's plan coming together, Then he started trusting God completely, because we all say, myself, we all say we trust God, but sooner we just sit back and let God have his way, you know. And see, Joseph did not complain. He didn't ask no question. He just saw God putting things together. And that's when he realized, okay, this is my dream. So then Joseph both spiritual lesson and leadership, through the 23 years in Egypt. Before his brother came, he kept the faith and trusted God. Before his brother entered back into his life, he was trusting. He was trusting God and having faith. Because Joseph went through something. He went through something. He didn't have his brothers. He didn't have his father. All he had is God. And guess what? That's all you need. That's all you need. When you ain't got nobody else on your side, you ain't got nobody else to call, that's the only person you're going to need is God. And that's going to be all that you need, Just like Joseph said, before my brothers enter my life, I had faith and I trusted God. He was by himself and he had no other choice but to trust God. Just as, Joseph suffered before anything, got better. And that's how my situation is. That's how Joe's situation was. Everything just get worse before it get better. Everything just start tumbling down, falling apart, just, in chaos. Everything just get in chaos before it even get better. So suffering led to physical perseverance of many people. So also Jesus suffered, led to the spiritual salvation of all who put their trust in God. He also put his trust in God. He called for that cup to be removed. I called for that cup to be removed. But guess what? When it don't be removed, guess what? You still got to trust God and still follow. Jesus still went on his on his turn. He still did what he had to do. So we see that no matter, we have to suffer. Because we see that Jesus has suffered. God has sent his only forgotten son, to save us from sin, from this wicked world. We born into sin because of Adam and Eve. He sent his son to correct everything. And he had to suffer before he left this earth. So that's why we got to suffer and receive so much pain and suffering. So we see that no matter, we have to suffer before we rise to the top. Because we see that Joseph went through a whole lot of suffering before he rise to the top. And you see, I'm doing so much suffering before I can rise to the top. We got to get so much suffering. God ain't just going to let you ride. He ain't just let Joseph ride. Joseph went through multiple things through his journey in the 23 years. In the 20 years, then he got in the position. He was in the position. And a lot of time, it take a long time, and we thinking we not on schedule. We be thinking we not on track. But a lot of time, just like Joseph told his brother, I'm right where God want me to be at. And we think it take a long time rushing, but Joseph didn't even finish his term in jail. After he interpreted that dream, he was in position. He was in position because God was working behind the scene. So Joseph was in the pit. Joseph was sold. Joseph was in slavery. And Joseph was in prison. And then he got the promotion. And he was in high position. So he had to go through all that dungeon, all that suffering. He had to go through all that before he got in position. Because God's son had to suffer. So we can't have nothing easy. Nothing easy. He was in pain and suffering for 23 years. Right before his brothers came along. He had faith and he was trusting God. No matter what he went through, he was still trusting God. Now, Egypt also had to deal with famine. Excuse me, that become so severe in the land. where there was no food, but Joseph made a way. You know, all our suffering come from Jesus who had to suffer, you know. And so we got to suffer before we rise into any position, you know. So we see Joseph. Joseph got in charge. And we see Joseph been doing a good job. He been making plans. He doing strategies and everything else. You know, he did all that before the Israelites decided they had to sell their body. Joseph, in the meantime, Joseph was working things out. I mean, the famine was just so severe, and nothing else he could do. You know, for allow his brothers to sell themselves. You know, put themselves in bondage to Pharaoh. You know, and that's how they become to be stuck under Pharaoh, crying out to God, and God came and rescued them. You know, they're gonna have multiple parts to this before they even get to the promised land. You know, so just the details of how they become to be enslaved under Pharaoh. You know, because the famine was so, and God had it so severe like that because they had to be enslaved. You know, that was part of God's plan. They had to be enslaved. So God fixed it where they had another church, but to sell themselves. You know, because Sarah took her slave to have sex with Abraham. You know, and so that's why all of them had to be enslaved. You know, so that's why God kept that famine so severe. You know, so they had another choice but sell themselves. You know, and being bondage to Pharaoh. That was the whole plan. That's God's plan of them being in bondage, and God gonna come and rescue them. You know, so that's all the story I have for you on tonight. Y'all have a blessed night, and I'll see you on the next video.